You said somewhere that you love films that are centered around the human condition, and I know you have a fascination with stories about jails, recidivism. Where does a nice boy from Alton, Illinois want to know more about that? How does that fit into your stories?
It fits into my stories because I often think about what my life would have been like had I not been fortunate to develop this passion for filmmaking. I think artists and people that do this are just a little bit, they push themselves to the extreme. And for me, I know that if I didn't have this to really pursue and I was a lost soul, like a lot of other people, you know, with that, I could have very easily done, I'm not, you know, been in a position to where my energy was directed at the wrong thing. You know, I was lucky that I had this filmmaking, but just, you know, growing up in Alton and being around kids whose fathers worked at the steel mill, and I think that there's just that fine line of how you can be a seemingly good person and a smart person and make a bad decision. Because I've made, you know, a lot of bad decisions in my life, and there's that part of me that thinks, geez, you know, had it just been a different scenario, a different set of circumstances, you know, I maybe wouldn't have been as fortunate. And also, I think, you know, I've been around a lot of people that have been to jail just through just my own personal life. You know, I've never spent time in jail, but I have put myself. I've been in a lot of communities and through different things, and I've been around a lot of recidivism, people in and out. So.
And I found interesting that you said that a lot of times those very people won't see some of these films that are about that very subject, or about certain things in their lives that have brought them there. Maybe outside their circumstances, maybe because of what they do, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about that? I mean, you're making these films that there's some very deep issues running through them. They're not, you know, musicals, or, you know, there's some very, you know, dark subject matter that obviously you'd like to show. What is it about that, and how do you like to transcend with the story?
For me, it just, I mean, it's just kind of dealing with the relationships. I mean, not so much about the institution of prison or jail or the correctional side of it. I mean, I don't feel like I've never served any time, so I'm more focusing on the rebuilding, the process of rebuilding. And what was the question again? I just lost my train of thought.
I guess I'm curious what drives you to look at those things, but I think you answered it, because you said, you know, you've known people, and that you've looked at your own life and you've said, well, if it weren't for this or that, you know, I could be in the same spot. And I think maybe a lot of people don't look at that. You know, they just point a finger and say, oh, those people are way different from me. You know, they're quote bad or whatever. It's their own fault. Which some of it could be their own addiction or whatever, but in others it could just be a set of circumstances. So
well, yeah, I mean, I definitely think, had I not found filmmaking and been struck by this passion of what I've been struck with since a very young age, I could have been a very aggressive, aimless person, walking around with a lot of, you know, being too smart for my own good and stuff like that, and not coming from a good family. You know, I do see a side of me, an anger, a passion of that has allowed me to be so tenacious to get films made, because I'm not like a run-of-the-mill person. Like, I'm pretty intense, you know, whether it comes to figuring out with my career, or, you know, I'm an extreme person. And if you take away my filmmaking, you take away my art and what I love to do, and then, I'm gonna have consequences within myself, and that's what I have to. That's a struggle in my everyday life that I have to deal with. So I think that's honestly why I'm so interested in prison and recidivism.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's almost that same obsession, whether it's, hey, got to find my next fix or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you turn it toward, wow, there's a story idea, and you ruminate over it and you obsess over it, it's
Mm-hmm.
the same. You're taking yourself out of your present situation, and you're focusing on
Mm-hmm.
something else.
And I've been around a lot of addiction, and seriously, I mean, that's a part of my story,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's. But I think a lot of people who are creative and who are, I'm not speaking about myself, but who possess the zeal and the skill and the passion, the really driving force to build a career, that's going to manifest itself in a lot of different ways, whether it's through addiction or whatever,
And in the book, you talk about female addiction,
Mm-hmm.
which I find interesting because it's sort of like a scarlet letter,
Mm-hmm.
Curious why you chose a character like that, especially one that she wants to have a baby, right? But because of some prior addiction issues,
Mm-hmm.
there's some problems with her being, what is it, artificially inseminated, or
There's a problem through her addiction. She can't get approved for the treatment.
I see.
And they say, more or less, she's got to clean up her act, and she tells her husband, Paul, I'm going to clean up my act. And there's a process. She starts that process, but she runs into more obstacles to she goes back, and they can't see her. It's not happening fast enough because people who are addicts and who are passionate, and this woman's smart, they want it now, and when they don't get results immediately, they get mad. So they find an alternative way to go about it, and that's exactly what this woman does. She goes to her drug dealer, who's a father figure, who's also from South America, because these people are South American. They're from South America. She goes, I need help with this, with getting my fertility drugs. Can you help me? She's eager, and she gets it. And this, when she gets her way, it creates these barriers, and all this it creates residual problems for her and this couple. And there's a big moral arc that they each go through, the husband and wife, on their own terms. They start out together, and then they take their own journeys, but they're always so close to one another, but they go on their own arc, their own journey, until they come back at the very end, and they've each learned sort of their own moral type of lesson, despite a lot of loss and pain. And it's a really crazy movie. I mean, it's intense, and it's gonna be something unlike I've ever done before. Not that I've done so much work, but I really think it's I'm going to push the envelope. I'm going to take a lot of risks.
When you write strong female characters, what's driving behind that? Because I understand that's not the first time
Mm-hmm.
you enjoy.
Well, for this one, it was my experience with the whole ectopic pregnancy when I was 23 years old or something.
Mm-hmm.
That was based on that experience. And then women who I've known who have struggled with addiction and fertility issues.
But do you like these strong female characters? Why not a passive sort of wallflower that doesn't do anything?
I don't know. I haven't known many passive wallflower women in my life.
Okay.
So,
okay, you're right about
well,
it.
in all honesty, I have had experience, and men do this too, how women can use sex as a weapon, whether it's withholding sex or having sex. They really use it as a weapon, and they use it as a way to control men, and it goes both ways. But that was definitely a little kernel that I've experienced.
Also, too, there's this phrase called attention hooker,
Mm-hmm.
where people also use it to draw people in. There's a manipulative side. Men and women do it,
Mm-hmm.
where they love to kind of flirt, and maybe they have no intention of ever pulling the trigger, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. But that is their way of. And I don't even know where I'm going with this.
I like that term though.
Thank you.
Attention hooker.
It's from my friend's song, so
Oh,
she wrote
okay.
about it. Yeah.
Okay.